and welcome to VOP Business Show. I'm Kayla Abraham. President Bola Tinubu would hold bilateral meetings with his counterparts or their delegations from France, the United States of America, Sweden, and two others at the Paris Financial Pact Summit, which begins today. The special advisor to the president on special duties, communication and strategy, Dele Alake, disclosed this to journalists in Paris. He said the request for meetings with Tinubu is an apparent offshoot of his administration's economic policies implemented in the past 3 weeks since assuming office. The presidential spokesman said that the two-day summit would enable Tinubu, who is on his first foreign trip since his inauguration, to network and attract foreign direct investment to the country. Apart from the immediate, medium, and long-term positive effects of the unification policy, Alaka stated that there could be a need for an injection of direct foreign exchange into the economy to shore up the value of the naira while market forces stabilizes. He cited the lifted restrictions in spending done through domiciliary accounts, saying it will build confidence in the foreign exchange system of Nigeria, which means people abroad can begin to bring in their money into the economy. On Thursday and Friday, Tinubu will join other leaders to review and sign a new global financial pact that places vulnerable countries on the priority list for support and investment following the devastating impact of climate change, the energy crisis, and the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Leaders will mobilize innovative financing for countries vulnerable to climate change, foster development in low-income countries, and encourage investment in green infrastructure for the energy transition in emerging and developing economies. The president and the other global leaders, multilateral institutions, financial experts, and economists will also take a more holistic look at the recovery of economies from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and rising cases of poverty to provide access to finance and investments that will leverage inclusive growth. To get more insight on this, I have joining me Odinaka Anudu, a journalist and economics and financial expert. You're welcome, Mr. Odinaka.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's nice having you here. Well, I want to start with this. What should Nigerians expect from the president, if I may ask?
Well, let me simply say that the expectations are very high, even though we must also understand that it's just a 2-day summit. So one of the things we expect is that, first of all, you look at the structure of the program. The program is basically meant to ensure that there is financing in education and financing in climate change and biodiversity. So one of the things we expect from that is that the president should be able to tell foreign investors and foreign countries that there are reforms already in Nigeria. Because when you look at the complaints of investors over the years, especially in the last 8 years, one of their complaints is the foreign exchange. You know, the fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria has been running Nigeria through capital controls. So a number of investors do not have the confidence to put their money in Nigeria. So the president should be able to talk to them and tell them that we now have a new sheriff in town who has been making changes and is ready to make more changes. Secondly, is that Nigeria should also expect that about $2.3 trillion infrastructure gap. We're expecting that the president should be able to attract funders to Nigerian infrastructure. We talk about infrastructure, it's not just roads. We have a lot of even the manufacturers, they lack infrastructure to produce. Even the railways are infrastructures. I mean, there are many of these infrastructures that we do not have at the moment, starting from the airports, down to the seaports, down to these are the infrastructures you see in what I call the emerging economies.
All right. Mr. Odinaka, what are the specific portfolios of investment he should be looking for? I mean, for example, power, agriculture, petroleum. What do you think are the specific portfolios of investment he should, be looking for?
First of all, before I break it into the sectors, it's very important that we also look at what constitutes capital importation. Capital importation, which is foreign investment. We have foreign direct investment institution where somebody comes into your country and then sets up a factory, sets up a firm in Nigeria. You also have the people who belong to portfolio investors. What they do mostly is that they invest in the stock market or most of their finance, bonds, stocks, and all the rest of them. You have people who do other investments like tax credits and loans. So first of all these sectors you mentioned are very important. Yes, there are some of them that can be more important than others. But the most important thing here is not the sectors. The most important thing here is that the foreign investors have the confidence to, whether they are portfolio investors. Let me give you a picture of what I mean. In the last 4 years, between 2019 and 2022, foreign investments in Nigeria declined from about $23 billion to about 5 point something billion. So about more than 4 times decline. So what matters at the moment is not really the specific sectors. But what matters at the moment is the fact that investors begin to see the changes that the Tinubu administration is making. So now regarding the specific sectors, if I must mention,
Yeah.
we have what I call development sectors: power, manufacturing, agriculture. These are the critical infrastructure. These are the critical sectors we expect new funding, because once you have funding in power or infrastructure, other sectors will grow. Once you start being productive, like manufacturing, a lot of manufacturers are saying that places like Ajaokuta working. And I can tell you that many of the raw materials, many manufacturers ordinarily should be able to get raw materials from Ajaokuta, especially those in iron and steel. So, but because it's not functioning, I mean, it's actually leading them to import more of these iron and steel products. Those guys who are producing roofing sheets, those guys who are producing nails, they are expected to be getting raw materials from Ajaokuta. But because that place is not working, see them importing most of these things. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Odinaka, do you think with this trip things are going to get better in the country, and with this summit?
I think
I said, do you think with this?
it's a very.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think the summit alone can guarantee prosperity in Nigeria. It's a tricky question, but I don't think summits alone can guarantee. There are many summits that we attend. What matters is the fact that after attending these summits, what have you been able to do in Nigeria? So we need to carry out reforms in several sectors in Nigeria. Yes, we have started with foreign. We have started with subsidy, but it also has to start doing more reforms. Because if you look at almost all the sectors of the Nigerian economy, there's a need for reforms. The civil service, because no matter what you do, if you don't have a reformative and changed civil service, you will not be able to have people who execute most of your policies. So that's number one. You should also understand that no matter whatever he does, he also needs to carry Nigerians along. The subsidy that he removed, Nigerians are still expecting palliatives. So before you make any progress, you must ensure that for us to hear that president, vice president, and some guys at the corridors of power have increased their salaries by 117%, when palliatives have not been rolled out for Nigerians, especially as we pass through these subsidy problems. Because subsidy is fine, but you need to ensure that you have palliatives or incentives that will enable especially the poor or the poorest of the poor to survive.
All right. The optimism investors seem to be showing it's about the president himself or in the reforms he's putting in place. He's just a few weeks in office. What do you think about this?
Yes, I don't think, I beg to, it's not really in the president, because the truth is that there is still some issues around his legitimacy. The Supreme Court concludes that case. A number of Nigerians and even foreign investors will not really have confidence. But I think what he's now trying to do is to win them over. A number of people who voted for other candidates are beginning to have confidence in him at the moment. He came out, he removed subsidy. At the moment, the fuel is very expensive at the moment, but you now find out that there is some sanity in the petroleum sector. You also see the foreign exchange. I mean, for a long time now, more than 8 years now, people have been complaining about the central bank will go to a farm and they begin to at a farm. Central bank will talk about border closures. These are not within the remit of the central bank. Whereas you have issues, basic things the central bank is supposed to do, which is, monetary policy stability. The central bank will not do it, or they will delve into other areas that other trade issues. Talk about trade issues, talk about agricultural issues. These are not within the remit of the central bank governor. So, and that has been the problem. So, what I want to say is that there is a need for him to actually try as much as possible to accelerate these reforms. But these reforms must have human face. It's not just enough for you to roll them out, ensure that they have human face. So if you are trying to correct the mistakes of the past administration, also ensure that you do not harm or hurt those at the bottom of the ladder. That's my piece of advice.
All right. You spoke earlier about the types of investors. Yeah. Can Nigeria manage risk while shopping for foreign capital?
Yes, of course, you can manage risk by shopping for capital. Well, if I understand what you mean by risk, there are different types of risks. If the risk you mean is internal risk is Nigeria, of course, yes, you can manage the risk. If the risk you're talking about is security,
okay. When I
yes.
speak about risk, if I may interject, Mr. Odinaka, when I speak of risk, I mean foreign risk.
Okay, yes, of course, you always protect your country from risk, foreign risk, by also trying as much as possible to ensure that while bringing in foreign investors, we do not hurt local. Because many times what we have done in Nigeria is to focus more on foreign investors and then allow local investors to suffer. So that's number one. One of the things you can do is to ensure that you protect them. In fact, no developing economy today, pays more attention to foreign investors than local investors. Mostly what I have seen, especially in emerging countries, is that they pay equal attention to both of them. So, but in Nigeria, we seem to have been paying more attention to foreign investors while we allow local investors to suffer. So when we talk about managing risks in Nigeria, yes, the risk here is always what we do in economics is that you also have to look at cost-benefit analysis. So what is the cost-benefit analysis? Yes, the risk may be very high, being high when it comes to foreign investments. But the point is that the benefits that they will bring into Nigeria far outweigh whatever risk or cost you will see.
Okay, let's talk about internal risk. I mean, the likes of Boko Haram. What would you have to say about that too?
Definitely, there is no way you can make progress without resolving those internal risks. Insecurity. If you look at agricultural production in Nigeria, if you look at manufacturing, let me start from manufacturing, especially those that are done agro processing manufacturing. Manufacturing contributes in the last 8 years, even in fact in the last 15 years, if I think I'm right, agriculture contributes less than 10% to GDP. It has not grown. Most of the emerging economies, when you look at starting from South Africa, there is no way you can make progress if you do not resolve issues. If you do not bring sectors like manufacturing digit growth. And how can you do that? You can simply do that by ensuring the resolving security, because the biggest sector in the manufacturing is food and beverages. They make up more than 50% of the manufacturing you see in Nigeria at the moment. And much of those raw materials that they use in producing, they come from the northern Nigeria. They come from most of these areas where you have insecurity. So you need to resolve them in order to drive those sectors. Secondly, is that for foreign investors, you need to ensure that, look at Nigeria, in the southeast you have, in the northeast you have issues of bandits, this is Boko Haram, north central and northwest is banditry, southeast agitation and the likes. So even in the southwest too, I know so many villages in the southwest now that are being attacked steadily by those. I know two villages where the residents have run away because of attacks of bandits and all that. So all parts of Nigeria, you have this security risk. So what the president, he has appointed the NSA, has appointed security chiefs, but it doesn't stop there. He has to come up with a security master plan. Nigeria needs a security master plan so that security master plan will guide anybody who comes in. Because you can sack Rubadu today and all the things he does, we don't know. But when you have a master plan, anybody who comes in can easily look at that and say, okay, where are we? You can easily assess yourself.
All right. Mr. Ojinaka, I just want to know, why do you think a lot of Western countries seem to have found hope in Nigeria? What are they looking for, really? What are they looking for?
Well, it's why you Nigeria. I bet you that Nigeria is a country of attraction. Why? One of the reasons is that our population is quite huge. Apart from how many countries in the world have as many people as we do, maybe Brazil. I'm talking about emerging countries. Apart from India and China, there are more than 1 billion. But countries like Brazil, Nigeria is the most populous black nation. And anywhere you have population, you simply have the markets. So the world is looking for Nigeria because there is a market. Anything you bring here, you sell. That's the first one. The second one is our GDP is also not small. Sometimes we tend to neglect that. Our about $440 billion. So it may be, when you look at other very big economies, it may be very small when you look at that. But the truth of the matter remains that it's the largest GDP in Nigeria. I mean, in Africa. South Africa is still the second, 420 billion. So that's the second point. The third point is the fact that the world is interested in Nigeria because we cannot really afford, the world cannot afford to. I don't know, if we have a war now in Nigeria, where are we going to run to? All the Africa are very small. So they don't want that refugee situation. That's why anytime they usually try to come in to resolve issues in Nigeria. So the world is actually be interested in Nigeria. It's a country with huge potential. Look at the solid minerals we have. We've not even touched them. Many a time what we hear is China, illegal mining and all that. So we've not even explored our natural, we've not even explored our human resources, much less our natural resources. So these are the things the world is looking at. That's why a Nigerian may be traveling, going to look for Japa, the popular Japa syndrome. But the truth is that the white man now leaves his country, which looks like which is a very good place, comes down here and takes the opportunity that we're all missing.
All right, Mr. Odinaka, now let me ask you upfront and direct. What sector do you think should really be the cash cow? Tech, oil, Greek? Which one?
It's not. I can't single out. For if you want to do this analysis, you do it in numbers. The service sector generally has about 51% of the GDP. Service sector, when you talk about the banking, the ship, 51% of the GDP. But what does that tell you? It tells you that the services sector is very huge. Now, agriculture is about 22-23% of the GDP, because GDP actually estimates the size. And as far as I'm concerned, because Nigeria is being tipped to feed the world. My problem is that we have been practicing agriculture in a very wrong way. I've made this point in many places that you don't grow agriculture by simply going to Borno State or going to Gombe State or going to a particular state and funding 668,000 farmers. You see, if you look at the economic models that have worked in several countries, what they do is this. You try to attract a very big investor. The investor can take over a land, the whole of Apapa in Lagos. So the investor will now invest his money and then employ smallholder farmers. The advantage that gives you is that by the time that investor finishes production, his product will be, because he has of scale, he enjoys economies of scale, which will give him, which will ensure that the product, the cost of that price, the cost of that product is low. That's why in the United States, for instance, you find out that a product can be $1. But when there are countries where we depend so much on smallholders, because a smallholder farmer, for instance, cannot afford a big generator. It's very expensive for him. By the time he finishes production, his cost of production will be so high. That's why the food inflation you have everywhere, because the farmer is not efficient. He produces food at very expensive rates. And then when he brings them to the market, they're expensive. And because we have large number of smallholders, that's why you have high cost of all things in Nigeria at the moment. One of the reasons, not all reasons. So, but when you begin to pay more attention to attracting big investors, what these big investors will do is that they will take up a large size of maybe a particular location or plantation. At the end of the day, they will still bring in smallholder farmers because they will be the ones to supply them, do this and that. But what Nigeria will enjoy is economies of scale. The cost of production will be so low. So I think we need to ensure that we do this. So that's by the way. So one of the areas we need to pay attention to is agriculture from potential because of the capacity of Nigerians to do agriculture. Another important sector is IT. I mean, the world is a global village now. IT can employ a lot of Nigerians. Think about how many Nigerians, up to 5 Nigerians, have built companies that are worth over $1 billion. So it's a gold mine. And there are many problems in Nigeria. Any country where there are problems, it simply tells you there are opportunities for innovation. So a lot of Nigerians are already innovating, especially in the health sector. Yes, they are IT. They are innovating via IT to solve health problems. The same thing is applicable in the education sector too. So I think agriculture sector is a gold mine. I think the IT is a gold mine. I also think that the retail sector is still a gold mine.
All right, Mr. Odinaka, thank you so much. It was nice having you here. Thank you.
Thank you too.
The exchange rate gap between the official and the parallel market on Wednesday closed by 99.33% to 1.83 per dollar from 275 naira in April this year. Dollar on Wednesday quoted at 763.17 naira at the investors and exporters forex window and at 765 naira at the parallel market. The naira per dollar exchange rate on Tuesday converged, closing at the rate of 756 naira at both markets. The closing of the exchange rate gap and the convergence followed the recent foreign exchange policy reforms carried out by the Central Bank of Nigeria. On Wednesday, lost 0.87% against the dollar at the I&E Forex window, Nigeria's official market. After trading on Wednesday, the dollar was at 763.17 naira as against 756.61 naira, quoted on Tuesday at the I&E window. The naira depreciation was attributed to the activities of the willing buyers and willing sellers in the market, as the market recorded high bids at the rate of 815 naira per dollar. At the parallel market, naira also depreciated by 1.17% as the dollar traded at 765 naira on Wednesday compared to 756 naira on the previous day. Traders attributed to the naira depreciation at the black market to increased demand for dollars from individuals for school fees and travel allowances. The CBN on June 14, 2023 collapsed all segments of foreign exchange markets into the I&E Forex window. This means that all eligible foreign exchange transactions in the market shall only be done via the I&E window. All other windows cease to exist. The I&E market functions by a willing buyer, willing seller system, where an entity with demand for FX seeks out another entity with FX to sell at an agreed price through an authorized dealer. In compliance with the CBN's FX policy changes, Nigerian deposit money banks have asked their customers to fund their accounts adequately for new and pending requests to access foreign exchange for legitimate needs, and that all eligible request dollars will be treated subject to FX availability. Such legitimate needs include Form A applications for business travel allowance, personal travel allowance, school fees, and medical fees, and Form Q for small and medium enterprises. Meanwhile, cost of airfares from Nigeria to various destinations is set to rise by over 50% as exchange rates for ticketing pricing hit 770 naira per dollar. The development is coming few days after the Central Bank of Nigeria floated the naira and directed commercial banks to sell foreign exchange at market-determined rate. The CBN stated that all forex windows should be collapsed into the investors and exporters window. Days after the decision, the exchange rate has since fluctuated on the International Air Transport Association platform from 663.04 naira per dollar to 770 naira per dollar. Already, airfares are increasing as a result of the increase in exchange rate. Reports show that airfares for economy class tickets between Tuesday and Wednesday show a sharp rise by 200,000 naira to 250,000 naira. Experts say if the exchange rate continues to rise, an economy class tickets may rise from 1.2 million to as high as 1.8 million naira and above, while for business class, the fares may rise from 4 million to 6 million naira or more. As of 2021, a dollar was being assessed at the official rate of 444 naira for $1 by airlines, but it jumped over to 577 naira to a dollar in 2022. The federal government engaged the General Counsel and Legal Advisors Forum of the mid and downstream operators in oil sector on the seamless implementation of fuel subsidy removal and other aspects of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 on Wednesday. Officials of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority met with the legal counsels of the oil and gas industry in Abuja, where participants discussed measures required for the smooth implementation of the PIA in a deregulated market, among others. The extent of this engagement is to deliberate on the current legal framework for the Nigerian oil and gas industry as intended by the PIA 2021, present clarity and insights to the sections of the law with diverse and different interpretations. The Chief Executive Officer, NMDPRA, Farouk Ahmed, stated that he is aware that stakeholders and potential investors require regulatory clarity to drive investment decisions and guide operations to ensure compliance with legal provisions and prevent reputational damage. He stated that regulatory clarity was also beneficial to the regulators as it would allow both entities to focus on the mandate as intended by law for the benefit of the industry and the Nigerians. Ahmed further explained that the PIA was designed to restructure the industry by creating a demarcation between the upstream, midstream, and downstream value chains for growth and efficiency. According to the new electricity report for the first quarter of 2023 by the National Bureau of Statistics, the total amount of revenue generated by electricity distribution companies rose by 20.81% despite a drop of 1.74% in supply. According to the report, a year-on-year analysis showed that DISCOs collected 247.33 billion naira as revenue in Q1 2023, which is higher than the 204.74 billion naira recorded in Q1 2022. However, the electricity supply was 5,852 gigawatt hours in Q1 2023, down from 5,956 gigawatt hours reported in Q1 2022. The report also indicated that DISCOs collected 232.32 billion naira in Q4 2022, bringing the total revenue raked in by the companies in 6 months to 479.65 billion naira. It was also disclosed that there was a rise in the total number of customers, with the total hitting 11.27 million in Q1 2023. Oil marketers have stated on Wednesday that the use of compressed natural gas in automobiles, when fully deployed, is going to be over 400% cheaper than premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol. Petrol subsidy was removed in less than 2 days after President Bola Tinubu declared during his inaugural address on May 29, 2023, that the payment of subsidy on PMS had gone. The pump price of petrol spiked from 198 naira per litre to an average of over 540 naira per litre across the country, a development that also led to an increase in the cost of goods and services nationwide. Since then, oil marketers have been making efforts to provide an alternative to petrol, as they told VOP TV that the switch from PMS to CNG would help in addressing the high cost currently being spent by Nigerians on fuel. On whether marketers had met with the new government on the extent of deploying CNG, Okonkwo told reporters that Ipman, as well as other oil dealers, had engaged the current administration on this. That's all on VOP Business Show and VOP TV. We would like you to subscribe and engage us on YouTube. It is Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms at VOP TV Live. I'm Kayla Abraham. Thanks for watching.